But as we scale and we're a small mom and pop and we're trying to scale or we're a family trying to scale, what are some of those dynamics? What do you think these guys have to really start to understand, accept, and then start to resolve?
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop.
Alan, I'm getting ready to get smart. I'm feeling like I'm going back to school. We got to go back and we got to get our pencils sharpened.
Did we outpunt our coverage today again?
I think we've done it.
Yeah.
I think we're about to. I think you better get your thesaurus out. I think I'm going to have to get my slide rule out. I'm going to have to go back to the old school and figure out how engineering works and how things work and how my mind works. And then we're going to find out what Doc's really about. But before we do that, one of the things I wanted to bring up, because this is very germane to what we're going to talk about today. You guys, I've always talked about having mentors and having them help you with just little advice. And a mentor doesn't somebody who just comes in here and tells you everything you're doing right, everything you're doing wrong. And he's not a business coach. It's just somebody you grab and he just starts giving you gold nuggets as you're going along and just having a normal conversation with them. And one of mine was a guy who started in the printer's shop of my buddy's place 30 years ago and got into the building boom of doing waterproofing of new construction homes here in Atlanta. And he realized that nobody was going to waterproof it right because the builders wouldn't pay the money. So he saw an opportunity to do waterproofing of existing homes. So he started his business 30 years ago. And I had a chance to interview him on the radio show that I do before we came here to do this. And I said, instead of just talking about waterproofing, let's talk about how you got into this and what you do as a business. And here's what he talked about. He said, good people in business will do good things for your customers. And if you have a team that you continually hire the right people, coach, train, put the right systems in place, coach, train, repeat, he said, then you can build and scale a business that will grow. I always recommend that people always try to work on their business at least one day a month at a minimum, if not one day a week. Because if you're not working on your business, you will always be a solopreneur. You'll be somebody who can't scale if you're always working in your business. So you guys taking the time to get on this podcast, listen to this a little bit. Hopefully you're in your truck. Maybe you're taking a walk, walking the dog. Hopefully it's a beautiful fall day wherever you are in all 25 continents we are in 7 universes. But today we've got somebody who's really going to rock and roll and take us to that next level, maybe educate us a little bit more. We got Dockery, who not only, as this thing says, resolves conflict, scaled up, and be happy, but he helps people figure out how to scale. So Doc, looking forward to talking about this and kicking around with you for a little while.
Sounds great. And speaking of rock and roll, John said that I should play my harmonica for you guys because I used to be a professional musician. And I thought about it. And as I started thinking about it, it made me feel a little bit chicken. I said, the last thing these guys would want is for me to turn this into some kind of circus. And I thought, oh, shoot, that made me feel even more chicken. And I thought, well, all this think too much, it starts to give you the blues. So I said, this whole thing can get away from us like a runaway train. So I just said goodbye to the whole idea and decided not to play my harmonica and just go right on into the interview.
Well, I appreciate
that.
And
that was awesome. Where else, what top genre podcast I think is harmonica playing podcasts and the art of harmonica playing.
We that's a new one for us, Chris.
I think a harmonica being played. We're putting that. That might be the title of this episode.
Trumpet, but we never could get him to play it, as I recall.
We got him to play the trumpet at the end, and I think it was off air. Yeah, he wouldn't do it.
Well, I used to do a lot of hitchhiking, and I played guitar, and it was hard to hitchhike with it, and trumpet would be hard too, or piano's the worst, but harmonica works pretty well.
All right, you've dropped a couple things from your bio. So you hitchhiked from Berkeley, California, where that was a big part of my childhood. I had an aunt that lived there, all the way
Really?
to Augusta, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
How long did that take, and how many rides was it? You didn't just find the magic one that got you there in one shot,
It
did you?
took several rides and it took 3 days. I basically was adventuring. I was in my walkabout phase, and I'd run out of money, and I had to hitchhike home to beg my dad for money to get my van fixed so I could drive it home. And I mean, that it was quite an adventure. I'll have to say, I met some interesting folks along the way.
Man, 3 days from Berkeley to
That's
Augusta.
quick.
That is very fast. I mean, even if it was today, well, today it'd be
Well, if he had no
possibly.
money, he couldn't stay in a motel. So as soon as somebody dropped him off, he had to stick his thumb back out again.
That's
I
right.
guess.
Well, I did actually. The last guys that picked me up had bought I think I was somewhere in the middle of the country, and they bought a classic car, and they were driving back east, and they actually got a hotel room for me. You know, they spent the night and got, it was, and then took me right to my front door. You know, it was
Wow.
Wow, what year was that?
1976.
How about that? So today, do you think any of us could pull that off?
God, no. Would you want to?
Well, no, because
No,
you don't know all the great,
you'd be hacked up in somebody's freezer. You'd
right?
be an
Oh
entree.
yeah,
What has
it was
happened to us?
it was much more. Heck, before I did it, I bought some. There were people were publishing books on hitchhiking and how to do it well. I read a couple of books and how to make great hitchhiking signs, and
I
the norms
hitchhiked a
have changed.
class.
Did you really?
Yeah, when I was in
I
college.
have never hitchhiked.
Oh, really?
No,
You
no,
know,
Thank
never done
goodness.
it.
I was mostly
Thank goodness
motivated
my
when it snowed.
yeah, that's- thank goodness my kids didn't do that. So
Right? Yeah. Don't do what Dad did, please. And
that's
grandkids, forget about it. I mean, you think about the advent of Uber. I remember. I mean, just think if you had this conversation with your kids and your kids, they said, "Dad, I'm going to hitchhike." No, 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 you don't get in a car with a stranger. Okay, Dad, I'm going to grab my phone. I'm going to tell somebody that I'm here and I want to go there. And they're going to come pick me up. I'm going to go in the back of their car. They're going to take me from where I am to where I live. How's that sound, Dad? No. That's called hitchhiking.
Right.
You're going to die. Well, no, they call it Uber. I'm like, I don't care what they call it. You're about to Uber die. So, yeah. So now Uber is very well accepted. And of course, they have all the practices, this, that, and the other. But if you think about that business disrupting content of what they did and how they put this together, I mean, genius. Kudos to them, but
Absolutely.
crazy idea.
So one more thing before we get into business. I saw you won an award. Was it given to you by BB King?
oh yeah, we this was in 1988. We this is it's the contest is held every year in Memphis for the best amateur blues act in the country. And I was in graduate school at the time. I had been a professional musician years before, but we competed and won, and then we got to play on the WC Handy Awards a couple of months later, which is the blues equivalent of the Grammys. And BB King was actually there. He played before us. We got to hang out with him backstage, and he actually gave us the trophy. And we tell everybody that BB King opened up for us. Of course, that wasn't true.
No, I'd stick with that story, man. I got to see BB. I got to see BB play in not the smallest of venues, but a small-ish venue. Man, I mean that cat. He was old at the time, and he was sitting down, but man, he could play that guitar.
Yeah,
Wow, he was so
I
good.
saw him not an arena, but a pretty good sized venue. Now, do you still play? Do you still?
Yeah, I put the harm and harmonica in bands around town still. So
So where can we see it since we're local?
now lately I've just been sitting in. My latest regular gig was I played in an Allman Brothers tribute band. You know, they had a harp player, Ace Doucette, back in the day, and invited him to join the band, and he didn't. But there's a band called Tribute. Now I'm not playing with them anymore. The guy that runs that, talk about entrepreneurs. He was a VP of marketing or sales. He sold CDs for a living, but all he ever wanted to do was play. And he's got some money from somewhere, but he's running as his retirement thing. And I think he's probably not, but about 55 or so. He's running 3 tribute bands: Allman Brothers tribute band, Rolling Stones tribute band, and a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young tribute band. And that's
And
what he does for fun.
and I tell you, what's wild is that whole tribute band. thing is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
And I'll give you my hook to one of them is that where my office is, we back up. We're in an industrial park, and we back up to another industrial park where the band, there's the Aerosmith tribute band here locally, practices, warms up, and gets going. And this guy is in two different well, one tribute band to Aerosmith. So Aerosmith just announced they retired. He said our bookings have gone nationwide. He said I'm going to Vegas, and this guy, and the reason I know him is because we're a handyman company, remodeling company, and he'll come over and grab our scraps and say, "Hey, man, I'm a handyman by day, but I'm Steven Tyler by night, you know," and got a great voice. And so those guys would play back there and practice, and we go over and just listen to them, you
Oh,
know,
that's fun.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. You know, there's guys for, you know, I'm a little bit of a headbanger, so I knew some of the guitarists that came through with some of their bands from the bands from the 80s. And but yeah, so the whole music scene, that's really cool. And the tribute band thing, I mean, it seems to me like it's blowing up.
Yeah, man.
Or
Well,
maybe it's already blown up. I don't know.
it's easier to market, you know. It's like because people know what they're going to get, and if they like that music. Whereas if you just bill yourself as a party band, you're going to get some eclectic mix of music and yada yada yada, you know. But it's easier to sell.
So Doc, you came it sounds like you were originally from Augusta, because you definitely don't sound like you're originally from UC Berkeley.
And then
Mm-mm.
I was born in Athens when my parents were in school, and I've lived in Augusta, Brunswick, and Savannah, and now Atlanta. And of course, I lived in Berkeley for a while, and then in Wilmington, Delaware for a while.
So was the academic career always something that your parent, I mean, so today we're going to talk about scaling up your business and doing that, but give us that background that got you into this, because it sounds like your parents perhaps were academic and you were an academic, and but you also were a music guy. So let's talk about that.
Well, so I had a weird family, made me want to study psychology. And then I paid my way through undergraduate selling men's clothes and loved it and kind of the give and take of the marketplace. So when I got ready to get serious about a career, industrial organizational psychology sounded like a great blend of those two interests. And then I realized that the academic environment was not to, I mean, it just didn't feel right for me. And so consulting seemed, you know, that was really the two main choices. And people talk about internal consulting, but I think that's an oxymoron. You can't be internal and be a consultant. So went to external consulting. My parents both got their master's degrees. My dad, I grew up on a farm in Americas. Actually, I didn't even mention Americas till I was
Yeah, I
10.
know. Woo. Woo.
And then they decided they had to make a change. I think they were working themselves into an early grave. My dad was a farm manager. We had our own farm, I think 800 acres or so. And they just decided they were going to completely change lifestyles. They went and got their master's degrees, and they both went to work for the state of Georgia.
Hmm.
My dad was a vocational rehab counselor, which is probably some of the inspiration to go into the, you know, that side of helping side of thing. And my mom was a school teacher, and that was a big change. That's when we moved to Augusta when they decided to make that change.
So where did you get your PhD from?
LSU. I taught Shaquille O'Neal. I'll take full credit for all his success.
Hey, you
You did a
should.
good job with him.
You know, he's very. I feel like he's very mentally stable, and seems like he's very industrially organized. Like I did that.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Well,
telling
you
you, man,
know,
he is
he-
killing it here in Atlanta. I mean, if you follow what he really has done in the business and what he
oh
does
gosh,
in the
yeah.
community, amazing.
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
that
you
guy does
know,
not get enough credit for that.
No.
he, he went pro. I was teaching while I was working on my dissertation. I was teaching in the business school, and he was taking my introduction to management class. And in the middle of that, you know, he probably hated it, but I'd go to the games because we were poor, and I had a student ID, so I could go see all the home games for free. And then I'd ask him about the game. We'd always start off the class analyzing the game and this and that. Well, in the middle of the semester, he got that contract, maybe $11 million, and he was gone, brother.
Oh, you mean he didn't stay for? He didn't stay. I bet you that's one of his biggest regrets is that he
I'm
didn't stay
sure.
for.
I'm thinking he did go back and finish up though. You know, he's
He
got
did.
a PhD in education or something. He's got an advanced degree. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
I,
His dad. I think his dad instilled a great deal of discipline, respect, all those things that you see in his adult life. And he went back and finished his education. He got an advanced degree.
yeah, I happen to know some people who are actually in his orbit, and so they've talked about him. So I've never met him individually myself, but you listen to what they say about him when they get to meet him and they talk about what he does. He keeps a lot of what he really does underneath the radar. You see him on now, as the star or this or that, or maybe a little audacious and out there. He has really given back to the community. He's helped a lot of people, and he takes no credit for it. He's got houses here in Atlanta and Orlando. I know that, and there might be other ones, but he's here in Atlanta quite a bit.
Didn't he become sheriff or a deputy or something like that down in
Down in
I
Greene
think,
Florida.
County?
yeah,
I,
I
Yeah,
think you're right. But I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot to that guy, and again, because I've had people watch the TBS sports,
Inside the
with
NBA.
yeah,
Yeah.
with Ernie, and people go, man, he sounds like a blithering idiot, and I'm like, oh, he's the exact opposite of that, bro. I'm telling you. I mean, this dude is on top of it. He's probably made more money outside of basketball than he did when he was playing.
Oh yeah, I'll bet you're right
He's
about
doing
that.
a
yeah.
great job. So I'm going to credit Doc. And
Yeah.
so you guys are
All
listening.
right.
You want to be like
I,
Shaq? You listen to this podcast. You keep going because
You
Doc's
want
going to
BB
drop it.
King to warm up for you?
You want BB King to warm up for you? You want to learn how to play a harmonica? Well, maybe that's another episode. But uh, so, Doc, before we got on, and you and I talked earlier, one of the things that here's what I took away is that you take a lot of pride is that you've helped a lot of families figure out what to do in their own businesses because a lot of families end up doing business together. So we have not talked about that angle a lot because,
Really at all?
right. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about what do you see with family dynamics? Maybe you're going to give us an example or whatever, but kind of set that scene because there's a lot of family businesses out there. Husband gets in, wife gets in, aunts and uncles, whatever. But I really found that interesting.
yeah. Well, and some of my experience, I've worked with family businesses, scaling them up, but I worked with some of the wealthiest family offices in the state and got to see the dynamics of those uber wealthy families. And man, it gets really complicated when you start mixing love and money. And, I have a strong bias that there's 100 ways to make a buck. You don't want to screw up your family over making money, but that's a lot of times that's what happens
Hmm.
because people, well, you see when it comes time to read the will and kids are fighting over the money and all, it's one thing and another. But to keep the family healthy and make that a success, and then to scale up a successful business, well, there's a lot of moving parts to that, and it takes a really advanced skill set to do those things both at the same time.
Do you have what it takes to start your own business? Are you tired of the 9 to 5 corporate job and ready to make that leap into entrepreneurship? You need to check out From the Zoo to the Wild, the book by successful entrepreneur Chris Lalomia. This book is a unique perspective on the journey into the wild world of home services and delivering excellence in service while working in customers' homes. Lalomia shares his path to success in this industry, including proven customer relationship strategies, award-winning customer experience processes, and a unique approach to training a team of service technicians to perform at the highest levels. Whether you're a small business trying to scale or a franchise operation, From the Zoo to the Wild will give you the mindset, habits, leadership style, and customer-oriented processes to succeed as a small business owner in the world of home services. So if you're ready to take control of your future, get a copy of From the Zoo to the Wild today, available on Amazon.
So let's package these things then. So uber wealthy, we'll talk about it a little bit later because that's really more Alan's territory. Um,
We don't like to talk about it much.
but as we scale and we're a small mom and pop and we're trying to scale or we're a family trying to scale, what are some of those dynamics? What do you think these guys have to really start to understand, accept, and then start to resolve?
Sure. Well, one of the mistakes that I see often is that if you give a kid a lot of money before and they don't feel like they've earned it, you really risk screwing them up for the rest of their lives. Because they know if they lost it, they couldn't make it back. It undermines, because your confidence is gained from overcoming challenges and hurdles, and that's what builds your confidence that you can handle the next hurdles that come. And if it comes too easily to them like that, it really messes them up. I mean, literally, they're nervous the rest of their lives, worried that they know they didn't make it. They know that if mom or dad or whoever gave them the money is no longer supportive, then they've got a lot of risk there. And so that's one of the things I see that the family businesses have to keep an eye on. The other one is telling a child that they're succeeding when they're not. Like making them vice president of the company or CEO of the company when everybody knows they're not good at it. And I mean, try attracting and retaining A players when you got somebody in a position of power who everybody knows is inept. Yeah, and so
That happens a lot, though, doesn't it?
yeah, oh yeah, because that's what I'm saying. It's the love and money. I love you, so I'm going to put you in this position of power, and make everybody dislike you because you screw up the job. You see the flawed reasoning there.
So you mean having your son break down a brick mailbox that got taken out by a car, and then we found out there was 3 feet of concrete underneath there, making him chisel it out and then put it in the truck himself. So that was a good thing that they did.
Very good thing.
Well, that's what I want you to explain to my entire family, that I was doing the right thing, is that he was driving down 285 with a pickup. Actually, I came and drove the truck because it was so bad. He bottomed it out, but he did. It took him all day to do this. So he didn't start out as a VP, but he started out as the grunt. But then again, he's not going into my business either. But you're saying that that's the way to go because. But that's such a big thing. You actually hit on one thing that I think a lot of people miss. And in corporate America, if you're thinking about making the pop and going into entrepreneurship, or you're doing entrepreneurship, man, dude, it's hard. I mean, right, guys, we all know it's hard. But what are some of the biggest things I take pride in is that my parents could have put me through school and they didn't. I put myself through school. What are your biggest things? We talk about this all the time between Ellen and I. Our biggest things is that, our parents didn't give us anything except a great foundation, a great work ethic, and enough support to make sure that we had a chance to succeed. Because I tell people I have a springboard. My parents were amazing. They were springboards. But when I look back on everything I've done, that's one of my proudest things, and you look back because what did it tell you? It told you that you can. Not it was given to you. It told you you can. And then when it doesn't happen, you realize, you know what? I got to get up there because I know I can because I did it once. Maybe I can do it again. But if you've never done it, you don't know.
No, I think we're raising a whole generation of kids that don't,
Well, you're
they're
not
in trouble.
I mean, your kids, but your kids, those kids are tooled. They're ready to rock and roll. I think you did a good job that way, but I agree. And here's the thing. I fall into that. And I have friends who are doing this. They're like, they do everything for their kids. And you're like, they're not helicopter parents, man. They are literally like snowplow parents. They're like knocking everything out of the way. And I'm like, are you really giving your kids that chance to go, wow, mom, dad, look how cool I am? Because I'm talking about, my wife, she always talks about, she went to work at a Pizza Hut and she went to work at a country club, and she was making money hand over fist because she was a cute girl at a country club with a bunch of old white people, which I am one of those guys now. So she always talks about how she put herself through school that way. And so think about that. How many years later? I mean, this is, don't want to date us. She's really old.
Good thing she doesn't listen.
But yeah, so I think, Doc, you hit on that. So
I thought you said it well, but just to say, I mean, the thing is, you want to support your kids, so they know you're always there, but let them overcome the challenges because that's how they get the confidence they're going to need the rest of their lives, right?
Yeah, you got to give them those tools.
I'm going back. I keep mulling over this whole notion of you've got a successful company and you've got your Nimrod son as COO or head of sales, and everybody knows, and you probably kind of know too, but how do you fire your son?
Oh, I want to hear this. Come on, Doc. You got to have a good story on that one.
Well, see, think about it now. It's role
Fire the Nimrod.
Well, it's role conflict, right? As a parent,
that's a biblical
role is different than as the leader of a business, right? So if you're not building a meritocracy in your business, you're never going to actualize it like you could, right? And everybody knows that. I mean, if you haven't fooled anybody when you put somebody in charge of, give them some power and they're not good at what they do, whether they're family members or not, right? So no, in fact, I've probably overdone it on my youngest. My youngest son is an addiction psychiatrist, and and I we're going to go to our nephew's wedding down in West Palm Beach later on this month, and I said, well, and his wife is a cosmetic dermatologist now, right? And so I said, well, y'all need some help with your hotel room. And I learned a new word. He said, Dad, don't be infantilizing me.
What does that mean?
Whoa.
Treating me like an infant. He said, I'm in my
Oh.
30s. We can afford the hotel room. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to step on. But you see, I mean that wanting to be independent. That no, we're grown up.
I'm doing that to my kids. I'm like, look, I'm not going to infant you. Actually, it's going to be so bad, Doc, because you're way smarter than me. I'm going to say, I ain't putting no diaper on you, boy.
Like, I think
And
I would.
infantilizing. I had to practice saying it.
I know
I
that's
can't even imagine one of my kids going, "No, it's okay, Dad. I got it."
Oh, there's no way my kids will.
Yeah.
Hell, I mean, well, right now we to date the podcast, the hurricane had come through that ravaged Asheville, North Carolina, and that's where my daughter is currently in PA school, and she was luckily here with us when this happened, but her friends have come down, and so I've said I'm putting up refugees from Asheville, but my daughter who is 26, I couldn't even, and so here's the play she played last night, Ellen. You don't love this. So we live in a country club, and the only way you can pay
Oh, is
is
there a golf course
to
here?
use my. There's a golf course you probably won't see, Alan. But let me tell you how Alan's got a great swing that's just never going to be seen with me and St. Ives. But she goes, Dad, we're going up to the club. I'm going to feed everybody. I'm like, oh, okay.
I'm gonna feed
Hey,
everybody.
wait a minute. Yeah, you can't pay. So I'm feeding everybody.
That's,
26.
she just big saladed you.
Oh, she was. Yeah, this is my daughter. Do better.
Do
And
better.
Dad, but she said it just like that. Dad, I'm
I'm
going to
gonna.
take everybody up to the club. And I'm like, oh, you are? Okay.
You're so
Is,
magnanimous.
is she in sales? If she's not, she should be, right?
Oh, this girl. Well, she's going to be. She's going to be a PA. But and she keeps saying she doesn't want to run her own business, but she's got the tools for it. And I'm hoping someday that she wants to, and I really want to be there to help her.
No.
Doc, getting back to the Nimrod as COO, my guess is it's not because, somebody who started a business is an idiot and they put their idiot son in charge. It's just when the business was small and the family's working together, it's like, all right, well, you're better at sales, you do this, and oh, you're better at keeping the books, you do this.
Right.
Suddenly the business scales and the business grows beyond their abilities.
Their
And then
skill set,
also,
yeah, it exceeds their skill set, and that's when, I mean, Willie, you have to make a decision. Like to me, when I'm trying to help somebody, it's always, what are your goals? What's your vision for that day-to-day life or whatever it is? What's the end game? And if the end game is to have, I don't care if we actualize all the potential of the business. I want to keep my kids employed. I love working with them, and I know he's not the best COO on the planet, but he'll do, and we'll have a big time, and life will be good. And if that's, if they're clear about it, that's fine.
All right. So you come into businesses, you help and I want to go back to still the family businesses trying to scale as opposed to the uber wealthy trying to sort out their own personal issues. Because we're going to get to that one in a minute because I think we're going to have a lot of fun with that. I'm talking this might be an entire podcast segment that we may start.
there's going to be aspirational sorts of questions for you, Chris.
Aspirational, yes.
Emphasis on aspirational.
Exactly. So as you come in and help companies out, you've seen the Nimrod son in one spot. How about the family just doing everything themselves, and they're just not the best at what they're doing, and they're thinking about maybe some outside help or how do you help them with that?
You mean as far as letting go or bringing in outside folks? You mean?
Maybe bringing in outside folks to actually join the team and be part of the team. Because I've experienced this. I've got there was a friend of mine, whole family did everything, and they realized to get to the next level they had to bring in another person, and they brought in an accountant, and she really started to help them all resolve their conflicts, all through the power of just being precise and disciplined.
So,
have you worked with that and talk about that one a little bit?
yeah, I started out doing Fortune 500 consulting. And the reason I launched my business, and I'm a
So
solopreneur,
you
I
started
started my business.
small.
Pardon me?
You started small.
Well, but I was in a firm and I was traveling a lot and I was the best business developer they'd ever had and was making lots of money and I was miserable because I was missing my three kids grow up. And I couldn't talk the partners at the time into doing what I wanted to do, which really was to market and service more locally in Atlanta. I thought we're in one of the business hotspots of the world. What the heck am I in? Why am I in Cincinnati? It's like, and they wouldn't go for that because they wanted a national footprint. So I launched my business in '97 to get control of my time. And I don't think I missed a child sports event. One time I was driving through Arkansas 100 miles an hour trying to catch my plane and still missed it.
Hmm.
But I think that's about the only game I ever missed. So it was about getting, control of my time. So as I went downstream in terms of revenue and so forth to small to medium businesses, and I focus on the Atlanta region, one of the biggest challenges I see is delegation in general. Because to be a small business person, I think they're bright, hardworking people that are good at a lot of things and they delegation or turning anything over to somebody else is like pulling teeth generally, and especially bringing in people put family members in because they're a known quantity. They can trust them. They know who they are. They know what their strengths and weaknesses are. Yada yada yada. But so once again, it depends on your goals. If you're making enough money, and that's what I do in my CEO and owner roundtable. We start off with how much money is enough money, because you don't want to get on that uh, track where you run round and round and you never have enough and you're never happy, right? So if they're making enough money, and that's fine. But if they want to scale it up, you got to attract and retain talent, and you can't do that if you have substandard leaders in place because nobody's going to stick around because they'll see that you're not. I mean, I had a prospect meeting the other day. I was asked to help this company, and they have two partners. And within a half an hour, they thought they had an HR problem because they had 100% turnover. Well, after a half an hour talking to the two partners, I knew what their major problem was. It was one of the partners. I said, and I just, dude, you're never going to scale up this company because people won't come and work for you if you treat them this way. Da 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 da. So I mean, it's like it depends on the goals. So bring in outside help if you're building a meritocracy and you want the best available. Thanks, son. You've been a great interim COO. We need to get a professional in here now. Let's move you over to sales or whatever it is that where you really shine. Are you an entrepreneur or are you a COO? Well, I'm an entrepreneur, so let's get you focused on how the business is going to make money and where you'll enjoy play to your strengths.
Do you find people call you and say, "Hey, I want to," you do the exploratory call and, "Hey, we got to have you," and you go, "Yes, all right, let's go do this." And you get there and they're not doing the thing you don't want to, you're telling them. They're like, "No, but you guys are ready." So they're not ready to change. What do you do with them? Even though they said, "Sign me up," and you went, "Yeah, they're ready. I have assessed them. I think they're ready. They're going to change. They're going to change for the better. They're going to take back their time. They're going to take back their freedom." Uh, I want to talk about some of those big blocks
Well, yeah,
heads.
and I have to say it's true. Over a 30-year career, people have paid me handsomely for advice they didn't take. So that's part of the consulting game, right? What you can control and what you can't. I go
Like,
in, do
there's
my
a gold
very
nugget
best.
for you. You want to be a great consultant, go in there, give them a bunch of money, and when they don't change, go, "Well, all right, let's keep trying. All right, no, let's keep trying. Let's keep trying. All right, keep paying me."
Right. Here's my
There's a
bill.
business model. No, but
No,
I know that's not what you're saying, Doc.
but the thing is, it's like you go in, you give the best advice, and you pitch it, right? Early in my career, I think I was probably too harsh. Gosh, you suck at that. Well, you don't get much traction with that. But boy, I see a great opportunity for you. That's a lot different than saying, man, you're really weak in this area.
Well, you did just say after a half an hour on a prospect, the reason why nobody will ever stay is because of you.
Oh, I didn't tell him that. I had a discussion with his partner afterward.
Oh,
I just,
oh, so
uh,
you have softened up.
Oh, look at you,
well,
Doc.
I just said, look, here's what we could do that might work. But I mean, I basically just said, here's the main problem. Here's why everybody's leaving. You'll never get good people to come and stay when you treat them like he treats people.
Did the other partner know that already?
Yes.
He just
And,
needed you to
and
say that to him, right?
sure. What can you do? You give them your best advice, you pitch the advantages, and you try to get them to get the foot in the door, just take a baby step. And they say, oh yeah, it really works. Then they'll take more, do your very best. But sometimes you just have to let go of it and just let them keep on limping along because you don't have any control. It's like, you know what I mean? You don't have any real control. The only control you have is to give good advice and hope they take it.
What are your favorite kind of clients to work with?
Well, I like service companies tend to be more in the small business arena, and I like working with family businesses. I saw, people do family business consulting that shouldn't be doing it. I followed a guy one time that over 5 years or 6 years had charged his family $300,000, and they were in worse shape when he left than when he arrived. And I would never do that. If you don't feel like you're making progress, I mean, I couldn't take somebody's money. Either we're making progress and hitting the goals we set, or, I'm not going to fleece them just to. I saw that happening in other consulting circles. I just resolved I would never do that.
Now, when you say family business, we've been talking about the mom and pop or the family trying to scale up. Are you talking them or are you talking about the family office, the uber wealthy ones?
Oh, if I'm talking about family, the scaling up people.
Yeah, okay.
You do want
Yeah,
to just get to the uber wealthy,
folks
don't you?
I do. Not yet.
you
No,
know,
not yet.
they,
No, I'm waiting.
they really want to, if they come to me and say, we really want to scale up, I said, okay, well, we talk just like we're talking. Well, here's the deal. If you really want to scale up, you got to attract and retain talent. And you can't do that unless you build a meritocracy so everybody knows that it's fair and they're going to come and make a good living and get appreciated, all the things that people want. Now, and if that's not what you want, that's fine with me too. Let's just make your family business, it's about their goals, right? And it's at a certain point, you can just say, look, I've given you my best advice. You're not taking it. What do you want to do now? Like, so.
How about when you get in there and you do that, you attract and retain, you're still there, you get to see them. Person comes in and gets completely rejected by the host. So talk about how that hasn't happened. I mean, it happened. So we got to see this one.
You mean like they hire somebody from outside and then they get beat up once they get there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beat the
Well,
absolute. I'm talking, well, to use Southern phrases.
They
tar and feather.
they
Well, let's
reject
use
the
my
organ.
They absolutely spanked the ass out of that motherfucker and showed him right the frick out. Yeah, I want to hear that one.
well, but that person, if they're worth their salt, they're going to leave, right? Either you can work out a win-win relationship where you're both achieving your goals, where your goals are aligned, or you can't. So, but to me, and one of the things I do, one of the services I provide, my basic model is right business model, right team, right teamwork. So we do the strategic planning to make sure we got market potential to achieve their financial goals. I help them with key hires. I do a final vetting interview to make sure we've been right over 90% of the time over 30 years in choosing key employees. And then the teamwork part, conflict resolution, systems and processes, efficiency, that kind of stuff. So if I've helped make the hire and we knew this guy is good, I say there's two things, guys. If you're going to bring in a high, an A player or a high performance person, you're going to have to treat them right once they get here because hiring them is just half the deal. So, anyway.
How do you know you're right when you're ready for it? So I literally just hired a general manager this year, and it took me, actually, I'm being very honest now with everybody, it took me probably 2 years to pull the trigger because I've been telling everybody in my CEO group it took me about a year. But
because you're cheap and you're a power freak.
Yeah. Well,
but other than that, it was a good idea, right?
Hey, Doc, can you give him like a PhD in being an asshole? No. All
You got to
right.
play to your strengths, man.
Well, yeah. Well, and those are my strengths. Cheap and power free. So it was hard. So I brought him in, and actually a lot of help to make sure that I was ready for it mentally, and also positioning him for success so he can continue to grow. Where do you feel like, what are some of the key things that we as power hungry, cheap assholes. Thank you, Alan. What do
I
we need to
didn't
work on?
say asshole. That was just implied. I
That
didn't
was
say,
implied,
yeah.
but
Anyway,
but it's accurate.
it's a good question, Chris.
Thank you.
So now I've forgotten the question. Say that again.
So, what do you need to do to prepare them to accept this person coming in? What are some of the biggest blind spots we have?
Oh, well, excuse me. The thing I said, just the general, like Chris, you're good at this and turning loose of it to trust somebody that they're going to take care of your clients, your customers like you do. That's a big deal, right? So we talk about that, whether let's say, here are the pros and cons. Here's the advantages and this, there's only 24 hours in a day. If you want to scale up, like you said, we're going to have to move you more strategic and get you out of the day-to-day tactical stuff, or otherwise it's just impossible. So if that's important to you, then we get real clear on the roles. What's your role? What's his or her role? Where does it intersect? How are you gonna the performance evaluation? How are we gonna measure their success? What's going to be the communication plan to make sure they keep you apprised and you don't get any rude surprises? They're not, because everybody you hire is an emissary for your brand and for your company, right? So you want to make sure they're out there representing you in the way that you'd be proud of. So,
That's where I feel like Alan has said a phrase to me that I've actually, believe it or not, I've used it a couple
Begrudgingly?
times. Begrudgingly,
Give
he
me
goes,
credit
"Chris,
for
you're
it.
in a very reactive business. I'm in a more of a proactive business. But as a business owner, I found that as I brought more people on to be able to scale, I've had to turn myself into being more proactive, even though I'm not nearly as proactive as Alan, because
Well, you can't be.
I can't, not in my world. But I got to get out of the reactionary, right? And so, how do you help these people? Because again, small businesses trying to grow it up and get going, we just react, right? Problem
sure,
up, problem up, problem solved. Problem up,
sure.
problem solved. Order up,
Well,
order delivered. Let's go.
and I pitched we look at it, we analyze it, right? What are the pros and cons? What are you good at? What can only you do? Let's make sure and let's make sure you've got the range. Like, for instance, anybody that works with me, I tell them, I'm an advisor. I'm not a decision maker. I'm not going to come in there and try to tell you what to do. I'm going to make recommendations. They'll be right. And if you ignore them at your own peril. Yeah.
You know
It's
what?
up to you.
See,
It's
so
totally
I
up to
do
you.
have a right. So what I said, you know what? We'll all get along a lot better as soon as you realize I'm right.
Yes,
I've said it.
I tried that on my wife. It hasn't worked.
Yeah.
So,
I think our wives have done that to us, though.
Yeah, that's funny.
but I mean, the pitch is people are nervous about that kind and letting go of control, right?
Right.
Control is everything. Look, it's like, what can you control? What can you not? And it's like, look, if you're going to scale up, once again, these tasks here you've got to do, because if you let somebody else do them, then it's not your company anymore. And at the size you are, that's going to take up most of your time, the strategic stuff, right? So you need to figure out a way to delegate this other stuff that's eating up your strategic time that's going to help you scale the company. So getting the right people that you feel like, I look for two things: competent and caring. They're good at what they do. They're fair with other people. They can work in a team, right? Those are the two main qualities. And when I do an assessment interview, there's about 7 main predictors, and we'll get into more depth, yada, yada, yada. But I'm just saying those two basic things that you can say, yeah, I'm going to turn a big portion of power in my company over to this man or this woman, because I believe they'll treat my customers the way I would, and that's how we're going to succeed. Or my
Doc,
employees,
Doc, when you were talking about when you engage with a client, the very first thing you do is strategic plan. And I think for all the entrepreneurs listening, everybody knows they need to have goals. Can you talk about what's the value of a strategic plan? Because I've been in organizations where, oh, it's strategic planning time, and it just was this exercise that we did because we were supposed to. But I don't really know if it actually ever hit the ground. So can you talk a little bit about the value of that, some of the things people are missing, and the difference between that and just setting goals?
Yeah, well, I think so. I've been trained in several different schools of strategic planning. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they overcomplicate everything. Like in graduate school, they wanted to make everything complicated, and you'd be studying the gnats behind. And I wanted simple, actionable things that could help people. Well, the same thing with the strategic plan. It's like you look at some people's mission statement. They get mission, vision, values. They throw it all into 3 paragraphs, and you don't even know what it says because by the time you get to the end of it, so I'm going to mission. What do you do and for whom and where? Values. What are your 5 or less core values? What are your top 3 strategic priorities? Well, it's just a way to get people to prioritize so that when they wake up in the morning and go to work, they got, if you're an entrepreneur, you got 100 things on your to-do list. My to-do list runs 7 pages. I never get past the first page. But you got to prioritize, and that's really what it's about. You say, we can't be all things to all people. Let's focus on something we can actually succeed at, play to our strengths, find a market niche where we can succeed. And so I keep it's simple, it's down to earth. It's not a lot of fancy shenanigans, especially with small business. You don't need a guy traveling the country scouting out your competition, right? Because that's not a big deal for, as an example for small businesses. So it's really about focus.
I
Because
love
a
that.
lot of times they're all over the place. You got these hardworking, smart people that are shooting out in all directions, right?
Yeah, he had that's a great analogy. Hey, if you're working in the Atlanta market, you don't need to have people going out there and doing price shopping in Tampa, Florida, or Jacksonville, Florida, or California, because it's not helping you locally.
No, it's irrelevant.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So keep listening to this podcast. Don't forget Small Business Safari. Hey, if you're out there and you're listening, just man, go ahead, tap. Let some people know that we're hearing because here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a big shift and we're gonna talk about really rich people. And I want to hear about these really
Doc,
rich
that's
motherfuckers.
all he's been waiting for.
I'm wait. I want to
Blah,
hey,
blah, blah,
Hey,
strategic
they're
planning,
blah
blah,
blah
blah,
blah. Scale your biz because I'm in the middle of it, man. But I want to know. Come on, these rich
He wants
people.
to know when
They
he
have
can
no
buy a
problems.
boat, Doc.
And how big is my boat?
What's that shit? Well, I'll just tell you. I'll tell you one thing that startled me. It came from Bill Gates Foundation. Uber wealthy people are the least happy people in America statistically.
See,
So look
spend
how
too much
happy I
time-
am, Alan. I must be like ridiculously happy. I'm like a
Well,
clown happy.
Because they spend their 4 major sources of
Oh,
happiness.
that's
They
happy.
spend too much time chasing money and not enough time on the others, right? So that's why I think it's important to define success. How much money is enough money? Yada, yada. I was having lunch with a guy that I went to junior high school with, and he's one of the richest families, a member of one of the richest families in the state. And he said, "Thanks for inviting me for lunch." I said, "Oh, well, not a big deal." He said, "Because once you have some money, people are always trying to get their hand in your pocket." I mean, you literally, he said, it really changes your perspective on life. I mean, so it's not everybody thinks the more money you have, the happier you are. There's some sweet spot where you got plenty of money, but don't go, don't get out of balance.
I already know what Chris is thinking. He goes, but if I make Uber money, I can just hire people to get the people who have their hands in my pocket out of my pocket.
Right, that's what I think. I'm like,
Hey.
you know what? Maybe I should consult these uber wealthy people on. Hey guys, you can be happy like me.
That's right.
Because I am happy as a clam, being poor as shit, doing what I'm doing, running the business and the handyman business.
There you
And by the
go.
way, don't ever pick that one, man, because it's been 16 years of pure freaking hell. I'm kidding, but but I'm
I
happy.
mean,
But I'm happy because I am
that's-
going to the Falcons game tonight.
I
That's
need
the
to call your
biggest
therapist and set
takeaway.
an
That's
appointment.
the biggest takeaway to me is, you got caring relationship with yourself, caring relationships with other people, family, friends, business, da da da. Work you love doing, and enough money to pay your bills with some left over for fun. I mean, from the research in positive psychology. So if you spend too much time on any one of those, you get out of balance and you don't get all the joy you could out of life, right?
Amen. You're actually you're preaching everything we talk about. All jokes aside, I think you've hit it right on the head. It is hard to find that balance between how much is enough, how much family is enough. Because people say, "Well, I want to spend all my time with my family." I'm like, "All right, let's get real.
Really?
You really don't.
No.
I mean, all right. I mean, so there's a balance that you want to find. And we all have to find that work-life balance. And by the way, it is not a 50-50 split for many of us, right? It's definitely going to be swayed towards work. That's just what it is. But if you make work part of who you are and what you do, but it satisfies your ego and your id and it helps you go. I'm using psychology words that I don't really understand, but I figured I had Doc on, so I give it a shot. But you do that. but you find your fun, right? And you have those fun, those outlets. And here's what I found, that sometimes the harder I dug, the worse it got. And sometimes when I just let go and I went to a ball game and woke up the next morning, I went, oh, that's right, got it.
Yeah,
And I,
You
I was like,
you let your brain refresh.
yeah,
sure. Well, the cool thing
hard to do
about
though.
the
That's a
cool
hard.
thing about
I'm sorry,
being
Doc.
the cool thing about being an entrepreneur is that you have the control. You can make it what you want to make it, right? I mean, as long as that's when I launched my business. I've had 34 paying jobs, starting with probably mowing lawns when I went just every one of them, right? And I thought, as long as somebody else is in charge, I'm gonna, like, who Farrah Gray is, the serial entrepreneur. He said, build your dreams, or somebody else will hire you to build theirs. So I said, I said, at least if you're the entrepreneur, if you're the guy in charge, you can do things your way and craft the kind of life you want. So that's the allure, of course.
Sorry, I hit the wrong thing. The wrong button. I was like,
Hey,
I was leaning over.
did you just show how the sausage was made to all of our Galaxy members?
Yeah, no, I hit the audio, I hit the mute button when I went to hit something else. I was the Doc, this has been awesome to talk about this. Of course, we didn't talk enough uber wealthy people. So, can we find out what's the biggest yacht you've ever been on?
The biggest what?
Yacht.
See, I got him laughing. How about that?
See, look how
Huh?
happy he was being on
man.
that yacht.
See, you were happy. I brought you back to a great time. Come on, how big was
There
it?
you go. Well, the biggest yacht, right? Well, I'm prone to seasickness, so I don't spend a lot of time on yachts.
All right, biggest gun you ever shot.
Now we used to go. One had a client for 7 years until they sold and everybody got rich, but me. And of course, I knew I had to raise my fees at that point. But we used to go on we'd go on these quarterly retreats, and we'd go drink fine wine and shoot sporting clays, sometimes both at the same time, which was a
That
little
is a
dicey.
quality day right there.
Well,
Yes.
that's the way to do strategic update planning right there.
Yeah.
That's the way
I
I
get
would.
very strategic when I'm drinking fine wine, shooting guns.
You know what? We're doing it. I got a
Birds
place.
being thrown out
We're
of a
going to
cage.
Etowah. We're going shooting in Ellen, because I don't actually, I don't even shoot guns. Quick aside, because this is a good one. So I did same thing. I was on I'm in a monthly CEO group. Everybody knows that. That's what really helps me fine tune and really hone into my business a lot, and it keeps me accountable to what I'm doing. But we had one at what's called the Kennesaw Governors Club, Governor's Gun Club. And downstairs at this Governor's Gun Club, they have 100-yard range, but it's underground and you shoot through a tunnel. And they're like, hey, we're all going to go down and do that. Well, I don't
So
know
it's
if
a gun range.
yes,
Okay.
but downstairs
All right.
in a bunker.
Yeah.
And Chris doesn't shoot guns. So like, hey, lean on in, right? Hey, it's going to be a big kickback. I'm like, no problem. Got it. I dial in, man. I'm looking at that thing, and there's 8 of us in this little bunker. I swear to God, it looked like something out of World War II. And I'm dialed in, and I'm looking down the range, and I'm looking at my scope. It boom, hits me right in the head, my eye, right in my eye.
Were you shooting a pistol and
No, it was a rifle.
you hit yourself in the head with the butt of a
The
rifle?
scope of
Oh,
the
the
rifle.
scope. I was like,
Scope.
Oh
God,
my
how were you
gosh.
holding that?
No,
damn
I'm an
thing?
idiot, bro. I mean, that's what.
Yes.
But so here I am with 8 people, can't leave. I am spewing blood like a stuck hog. I mean, I'm done, and I got my head over it, and I don't want to tell everybody. So I got my hand over it, and I'm going, let me go to the back. Let me go to the back, and then so everybody else is shoot. But I want to tell all these other CEOs, hey, this moron doesn't even know how to shoot a gun. It was so funny. So.
Well,
Sticking with the boats.
You know what? I'm not seasickness, so I want the big yacht.
we don't do in my CEO roundtable for the small businessman. We don't shoot guns. So send us people who are not gun shooters. If they're not good, we'll take them. Okay.
All right, Doc, this has been awesome. So tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. Terry Doc Dockery, give us how we can find you. Let's go out there. We'll get out there in the show notes.
I want to hear him play his harp.
And, well, do that, and then we'll play the harp and we'll get out of here.
All right. Well, no, I mean, I
Yeah.
want to go to a smoky club with barbecue and listen to him play.
Oh, that kind of hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come. Well, I'll let you guys know. I'll ramp up my email list again and get folks out.
Good.
Well,
Yeah, we're coming. Dude,
Yeah,
we're going
100%.
to be in the front row like a bunch of groupies, too, and watch
There you
us go.
Well, the young girls won't look at me anymore, but you guys can cheer me on. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I don't think the young girls are looking at us either. I'm married. So
The resolvefirm.com We resolve business conundrums. So theresolvefirm.com. That's the best way to look me up.
TheResolvedFirm.com. We'll put it in the show notes. That's amazing. You guys got to go check this guy out.
He wrote a book too.
Oh my God.
You know, and
you know what? You'll see that probably on the reserve.com website because I did too. So what's the name of your book?
The book is Leadership, Happiness, and Profit, 12 Steps to a High-Performance Business.
well, that pretty much
It's on
sums it up.
Amazon.
Let's make it happen. And if you're here in Atlanta, we're going to hook you up. And if you guys want, if you're here in Atlanta and you want to go listen to some good music, Ellen and I are going to go because Doc's going to put us on the list. If you want to find out, Chris at the Trusted Toolbox, hit me up on the email. And
We can have a listener party.
And we're going to have a listener party here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, let's do it. Hell yeah.
All
I got the
right.
newsletter going. Let's do it. Yeah.
Hey, you guys are on.
All right, let us know, Doc.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Doc,
Yeah,
roll us out of
special.
here with a little harp. Let's go.
Yeah,
Hit some.
You got some?
Well, anyhow, I could go on for days.
And we could listen for days. Cheers, Doc. That was
Cheers.
awesome.
Thanks, Doc.
Larry Dockery
Guys,
from
take
Result
care.
Dot. We're out of here. We got to go. Keep making it better every single day. We got it. Let's go make it happen.